Today is my B5 from Declaration Grooming again. This time I'm not using the same elastic type hairband again. I had to do a double thickness on that from the shoulder here of the handle up. And so this time I switched to something, and I believe is going to give me something a little with a little less grab. And hopefully I get a little bit larger, longer loft. And I hope that it'll be fun to test and see if that makes this brush do something that I like a little bit better. I'm trying to find that perfect loft so that if a handle ever comes along that this knot could go in, then I'll know the right loft to put it in. So I'm going to squeeze these bristles, and I like to soak my badger brushes. You don't have to, you can just get them wet and let them sit a second, but 3 minutes or so while I do all my other prep work is what I do. Today's blade is a young-ish one, about 9 uses on this Gillette Silver Blue. And we'll take him out. Does he have, oh yeah, see those little, let's see if I can get the reflection right. If you can see the waxy spots on all the 4 corners on that side. I don't really like blades that do that, have that wax, but just kind of the nature of the beast. Someday I might make a list of the ones that don't. Maybe see if some of my favorites could then be on that list. Today's razor, I just kind of quickly took it apart by habit, is the RazoRock Mamba. And I'm going to put the handle aside for now. This is an interesting head design because, as you can see, we've got posts on the base plate instead of a common practice of putting the posts on the alignment posts on the top cap. All right, so I'm going to put this blade on there. See how it kind of sits flat on the curved surface. All right, then, now those posts that are on there are going to go inside those 2 holes right here. Now, often, a razor that uses this technique will be one in which you do not have to worry about alignment at all. Now, when this starts to get snug, I don't want to pinch my fingers because I was holding it closed, but now that I've got it up, now I can kind of bring it the rest of the way. The Mamba here, Mamba's mainly the head. What is this? The halo handle. I believe it's titanium, my first titanium handle. So we have plenty of room underneath for the soapy, hairy mess to come through and get cleared away. And we can look at the exposure there of the blade. From what I hear, this is a very mild razor. I find that mild razors will have a big dichotomy among the users. Some people just love them and other people hate them. People who hate them, I think, many times they didn't give them enough time to find that perfect angle. Sometimes a mild razor takes a little bit longer because it's got a smaller angle of margin there for you to get a good cut with it. That's one type of person. I'm afraid that's probably pretty common. But number 2 is some people's face just doesn't agree with them. They need something with a little bit more aggression, and so that's just going to happen. Number 3, you've also got folks who need to, their preference, their face might agree with a mild shaver, but their preference is to do a lot of good cutting so that maybe they can get things done in 2 passes instead of 3 or 4. So different people who don't really care for the milder razors, but the people who like them often like them a lot because they're so smooth. They give them good, if they have the right kind of skin and hair types that match the geometry of these mild razors, then they end up with such a comfortable cut. It's a joy to use every day. There's no buildup of irritation, so they often have big fan clubs, or the ones that are fans are big fans. All right, speaking of big fans, I love Barrister's Reserve. Barrister and Mann, this is cool. I avoided it for a while because it had a flower on the cover, and I'm not a floral dude. But I started checking out this cool genre, La Aqua Velva, blue, you know, that kind of genre, and I discovered I really kind of like it. And so I managed to find a good deal on some of this. It's almost full. This will be my first. I think I've tried a sample of it, but maybe not. Just smells tremendous. I'm so glad that that Will at Barrister and Mann is going back and grabbing these old scents and bringing them back just like this, like with the Old Spice and with the blue. So just smells terrific. The Reserve, this is the Reserve base. A lot of people don't have an easy time making up lather with it. My technique just seems to match it just fine, along with most other soaps. And so I've been great with it. I just watched his video, and he said about 25 swirls to load your brush with kind of medium pressure. And it is a low structure soap. It's not going to make big frothy foam. It'll be slippery, slick. But you know what? When I was using it, I didn't really notice it being a low structure. I just noticed it being great. So we'll just see what happens. Everything else is lined up just right. Oh, my wife liked this aftershave today when she kind of sampled it on me. I got a great deal of it on Black Friday. I don't think I like it too much. Maybe a little bit too florally. It's got some Lily of the Valley in there. But the aftershave, that is my wife's domain. I wear whatever she likes because I like it when she likes it. And but I like the performance. This does have a menthol in it, but it doesn't bother me. I feel it in my eyes, but it doesn't bother my skin at all. And that's when I have been putting it on just as a part of my day and not really after a shave. So I'm interested in using this right after a shave to try it out. All right, let's splash my face with some water. Okay, why don't we do like the video said, start out with like 25 swirls. I am going to, now Will said start with a really wet brush. Okay, I did kind of shake this out. I guess it's medium wet. Let's just do that. All right, and 50 just rolled around. So I'm going to do this with 50. Oh, crap. I'm used to timing it. Let's just time it this time, I guess. Okay, so that's 10. And boom, that's 20 seconds. And it's very wet. Don't expect that to be a problem. I'm going to go ahead and rinse off the container. Now the good news is I'll be able to, and you could go back and count my swirls as I did it for the 20 seconds and see how everything ended up. All right, let's just start up with a lather bowl here. Yeah, it's a nice scent. Since there was a good bit of water in the brush, right away when you start mixing, it will be a very loose, a very wet looking lather. This one, a little on the bubbly side, not as much as some, but it'll be very wet looking. But as you keep stirring, that water that's in your brush is going to start to come down and mix with the soap. So it'll start to thicken. And we're kind of at that point right now. See, we got some nice thickeny lather, very nice. Now, if you know how much water you like, and you can maybe take your brush and maybe shake it a certain number of times, that will help you to figure out and be able to repeat that same amount of water, then you may not have to add water to your bowl here. You just stir until everything is mixed, and then that's the right ratio. Now we can see this soap is kind of staying up on the wall. That usually means it needs more water in my experience, with the way that I prefer my soap to behave. So since I started with a medium wet brush, I think that's kind of hard to subjectively judge. So this may not be as repeatable as some of my other lathers. That's one of the reasons I like to start with a pretty lightly wet brush, because that is duplicatable if you guys are having trouble with your lather and you're kind of following along, shaking pretty much all the water out that is almost reasonable to do. So is kind of easy to do, and then add water as we go, and then it's a finite amount that can be repeated. Looks terrific, silky, got a nice sheen on it. We're gonna keep stirring because we might be right at the right point. I went ahead and added 1 whole teaspoon. It's a little risky because we might be right at the sweet spot. So if we go over it, might be a little too wet, but I don't think so. It's looking pretty good. See if I'm going to stay in the middle here, and then I'm going to lift up. Notice that it's not as high on the walls as it was. It's kind of coming down, and so that's something to look out for if you want to make that a landmark. I think it's pretty integrated right now. So what I'm going to do is put my brush down, get it between my fingers. Oh, lots of cushion, lots of almost resistance, almost like air. Not air, but like if I was squeezing a very gentle little tiny balloon, and then a little bit of resistance as I lift up, you know. Anyway, let's feel the, I can feel fingerprint ridges. So let's just shave with this. Looks really good. All right. Splash my face one more time. Kind of brushing away the excess water droplets just in case I don't need them. Oh, nice smell. Very present during the shave, during the lathering process so far. Starting out a little transparent, and that's okay. This is a very dense brush. I didn't shove the brush down into the lather quite as much as I usually do. So let's just go get some more. That's more like it. As usual, it's okay if it looks like this when you're doing these scrubbing strokes. Don't try to, the scrubbing, you may end up with a empty middle of the brush, but as long as the outside of the brush has soap, you're probably okay. But having something as transparent as this is fine when you're in this type of motion. You're scrubbing, because you're not going to leave behind something thick usually during this type of motion. This is meant to clean your face, remove any dust and dirt, and some of the loose hair follicles. You can get in and amongst those hairs and slick them all up, make them stand up maybe. Then, once you've done that, also to clean away oils, then you can switch to this motion. Paint the fence if you're a Karate Kid fan. Nice scent. Oh, and it's strong. I'd say it's medium. It's not actually strong, but I'd say it's a 5 out of 10. I love that. If it's a good scent, I want to experience it during the shave. Excellent. So notice when you start painting, you eliminate that little core that was all dry because of the nature of the painting motion. And when I paint on my neck here, it's nice, even furrows. There's not any clumpy areas or anything like that. Many times for me, that is an indicator that it's too dry. All right. Have not used the Mamba yet. This is a very similar shape to RazoRock's Baby Smooth. I did use that a long time ago. It gave me pretty good shaves. It was really neat looking, but I had so many other razors that were mild. That gave me a mild shave, and so I didn't keep it. I moved it on. So let's see how the Mamba does. And this is a Gillette Silver Blue that's 9 uses or something like that in it already. So it's not a new blade. Also, we'll need to try to find the right angle. I'm getting very nice slickness already, and it's just being so comfortable. The buffing motion that I'm doing, smaller strokes, just more of them, is very helpful when you're trying to find that angle and you don't quite have the muscle memory to know exactly what angle to stay with, because it lets you constantly adjust and feel. I do not feel in any danger of being cut or anything like that. This is one of those where if I end up getting a good shave, a close cut, then this is going to be a good razor to keep around for me, because mild razors almost always give you a good feel during the shave. But the kicker is when you get done with that nice comfortable shave and your tricky spots don't even look like they've been shaved, it's because it was so mild you didn't have the angle right, or it was just too mild for your skin. Some of those are the reasons I mentioned. Let's rinse. All right, I'm just a big fan of the Reserve line. I do not find it hard to whip up a lather. I mean, you saw me, it wasn't hard. So it looks like the 20-second load is going to be pretty good. We'll see how much lather I have at the end. I know I'm going to have enough, and so what will matter is do I have way too much left over or just the right amount? I think I'll get a little bit more. Man, that smells good. I have some Barrister Mann Cool post-shave, aftershave splash. But my wife doesn't like the scent. It smells too much like her grandpa. And so I don't get to enjoy that. But the cool thing about soaps, this is not going to last until tomorrow morning, the scent on my face. And so I can enjoy it without my wife being inconvenienced. Now it's very comfortable, but the blade is being held really securely. You can hear it. And you can feel that the hairs are being cut. Can't really feel the blade edge too much. My neck tends to like the milder settings for adjustables. I'm liking this handle. It's a nice width. Doesn't seem to be a problem in terms of it being wet and it's not out of control, slippery and all that. Very nice, comfortable shave so far. Sure hope this cuts well. So that's 2 down. And I'm doing just kind of half rinses in between. Let's get some more leather. It's looking like the 20 seconds is going to be about perfect. And while many people might consider this lather a little bit on the thin side, a little too hydrated, pretty close to dialed in the way I like it. It's giving me very slick motions with the razor. It's not flying off of my brush as I'm slinging and doing motions like that. It's too thin when it does that to me. I mean, you can still shave with that kind of lather, but it's just kind of too inconvenient for me. All right, third pass. Nice, slick lather. This is where you can experiment with the angle, because if you can hear hairs being kind of cut and touched after 2 passes, then you're probably at a very good angle. I don't really do that as much with my neck. I switch to the just trying to cut as best I can instead of a diagnostic tool for learning and whatnot. Listening for the hairs to be cut. You can hear that. Often mild razors like this, they're the ones that I can almost think about going against the grain on my neck. And that's something I can almost never do. I think I'm going to have to do a neck pass, but that is typical no matter what aggression razor I'm using. All right, now, as you can see, looks like economy of soap has been achieved, because we're going to end up with plenty to do the job and a little bit extra. And I believe I really like this particular loft generated by this rubber band. So this has been a good experiment. Notice in the latter passes I don't have to do as much of the scrubbing, because we've already done the cleaning process, second and third pass. In future, you can just paint it on and go. one thing in my experience, and this was told to me by some people before I started trying to see how far I could take a blade in terms of number of uses. And they said they usually found that aggressive razors were the ones that you need to use to go beyond a certain point. And I guess that's because the tip gets smoothed out over use, and so then you need to change your angle a little bit to be able to cut better. Makes total sense. Because this angle against my skin is much more acute, whereas a more aggressive razor, it's a little bit more out like that. So let's look here. After 3.5 passes, I do see some hairs that haven't been cut as close. I see some length on a few tips, but that's kind of what I've been getting lately, and this is a very comfortable shave, so I'm thinking that this is going to stay around. I like this handle especially. It's great, but I like the head. I think it's going to do well. Another thing to try is with a mild razor is take your average blades that you do well with in other razors and use them for a little bit. Get used to the angle, then put in some of those rough, edgy, sharp blades that are sometimes too harsh for you in other razors, like Feather or Kai, something like that, and put them in a mild razor, and then it can be a totally different beast. I'd probably end up with a much closer shave right here. So that's something to try if you're thinking about it. And to order smaller quantities of those, tryablade.com is a great place to do that. You could go and order a 5-pack of each, or just 3 of the 2 blades that I mentioned. If you haven't tried it yet, the top 10 sampler from tryablade.com. That top 10 sampler is the most popular blades that are being requested. And so even though blades are very subjective, you could shave with the same outfit here as I do and get a very different result, because your face and hair and lathering and skill with the technique is different than mine. Okay, and so that top 10 sampler is a great way to try out the most popular blades, because they're most popular for a reason. So statistically speaking, you should be able to find a few blades in there, even if you're a beginner, that will be comfortable for you. Now, as your skill improves, you'll find that you can use more and more blades. And then eventually you might find you could use any blade in that sampler if you wanted to. I recommend buying 2 of the samplers, because I believe you just get 1 blade with each one. And I think it's good to go through the whole sampler once and then go back through it again, because as your technique improves, even in the early weeks, then you can see and you can say, wow, that first time I used the Astra Superior Platinum, it was okay, but then by the time 2-3 weeks later I did it again, it was much better, because my technique had stabilized some more. So that's why I recommend getting multiple. I don't have any affiliation with that domain. I just find it very useful. All right. Face feels good. I don't have any irritation. Definitely don't have any cuts. So let's, we did the 3.5. I think I'm fine with that. One of the things that Will said during the video was that sometimes the cool will dry a little bit. Not the cool, just the reserve line. Because of the way it's structured, it will be maybe a little dry on that 3rd pass. Now, I don't know. To me, it's not. It looks great. In the bowl, I've done basically kind of 4 passes in terms of time. And so, whatever I do with the soap, it does seem to, be just fine. And look at that. That's how much we have left. And that's a good amount. That's definitely enough for a pass. Maybe a pass, maybe even 2 if you add what's on the brush. So that's about what I like to have left as margin. So it looks like 20 seconds of stirring like I did. We can go back and count them and see if it's close to that 25 mark that Will recommended on his video. And here's a tip. If you haven't managed to see some of the trouble spot videos that are out there, done by other shavers to help you, there are some troubles, you know, like your chin area, right where the curve happens, under your nose can be a trouble spot. The Adam's apple can sometimes be a bit of a bother. But next to the Adam's apple, this is my trouble spot that gets me every time. Because it's a recessed area. The Adam's apple can, you can kind of make it convex, where you're shaving on the curvy part, and that makes it pretty easy to get it cut nicely. But here, this is a loose concave area. And one of the techniques that I saw online to help with that, not my information, I'm just passing on wisdom from others, is to, and you know what, I think this is from Geo Fatboy. I think this is from him. You can take the skin, pull it over, so what was once here in the recess gets pulled over to where it's in a little bit of a thicker area, and then shave it there. I'm not going to bother do it tonight. I got a good shave. I'm happy with it. Just a few little tips that have some length on them. Big deal. Now, let's bring in the Stubble Buster. This is Coastal. It lists Yuzu, Lily of the Valley, and Musk. And the thing is, all these Stubble Buster aftershaves, they're much stronger than the soap, and I'm really happy about that. Two of the soaps I tried were pretty weak. The Moxie was pretty much unscented, effectually. And the Resolute, I think it was, that I tried is just a little better, but still very faint. But these guys are excellent. I'm really happy with the scent strength on the aftershaves. And each one, in case you didn't know about this line, it's a great for budget guys. Now, I don't really recommend it often online because of the weakness of the soap. I mean, you might as well just buy unscented soap. But if you like lowly scented soap, then you're in a great place. You're in nirvana here with this line because it's cheap and has the strength that you would prefer. But each one of these has about 9 or 12 different notes listed. I think maybe they picked the dominant ones, or I think the Musk was in the base note category, and maybe the Yuzu was something you caught up front. And so I think maybe they may have organized the scent notes that way. But in the ingredients, it does have menthol, and it has, it's been a long time since I've pronounced it, acetyl salicylic acid, which is basically, I think, Tylenol. And so put that on your skin, it just relieves a little bit of the irritation in a medicinal kind of way. One of the things I do like about it is the slow pour that comes out. There are some aftershaves that just gush out, and then it's easy to overdo it. See what kind of sting I get for this kind of shave. I got just a little bit, kind of in some different areas, and it's almost gone. We'll see how that menthol, see if that menthol starts up. With a lot of menthol aftershaves, it will come on nicely, and I'll be able to smell the aftershave with a little bit of the alcohol tweak. But then by the time the alcohol starts to fade, the menthol starts to come in. So I'm interested to see what happens there. And like I said, my wife liked this one, commented on it today. I had put a little bit on it earlier today. And so let's just try it now. I am, because often with the level of menthol that are in most products, I feel more of a burn than a cooling effect. And yeah, dang it, I am feeling that right now. And apparently, as I've just learned, I don't really feel that when I am in the middle of my day. Maybe my skin has recovered from the shave, and so I can put that on. I don't get this burning at all. But after a shave, I feel it more like a burning. So darn it. Well, that was a good deal. At least I got to try that on a good deal. And I can keep it. I don't need to keep it here as a post-shave product. I can just kind of keep it in my office as a, I'm about to go down for dinner or whatever. Let's splash some on, almost like a cologne, and then it'll be very useful that way as well. Because I believe it's got some other helpful ingredients for your skin. Let's take a look. Very tiny writing. It is alcohol based. It's got witch hazel, aloe, glycerin helps moisture to stay in. That's about it. And that's pretty common to just kind of have those two ingredients. Witch hazel, excellent, and aloe are great for your skin. Burning is still going on. It's mild. It's not as bad, but it is enough to make me not use this after I shave. Skin does feel good and clean. It's not, this is not a lotion type, and so it's not going to feel super hydrated. But I do have oily skin, so these alcohol type aftershaves are just fine for me. Matter of fact, it helps to knock down my oily skin a little bit and keep it under control. All right, I'm happy with that shave. Man, it was comfortable. Really nice. I want to start cleaning up. Let's check my stats here. I believe that I think 3 teaspoons is what I ended up using. So 20 seconds of stirring. I believe I did refill this. I believe I put one in and then put another in and then started on the next one. So 3 teaspoons, I believe. But if you recall, you may want to check back on the video just to be certain if that's an important detail for you. And brush looks great. Nice. At the end of your shave, I never do this, but one cool thing is to kind of slowly squeeze the lather up out of your brush. Not only does it help to clean it, but there is some awesome lather right there. If you are ever at the end of your shave and you feel like I have run out of lather, do what I just did, and there you go, and spread that on your face and go at it, because that is some good feeling, dense stuff. Feels great. All right. Oh crap, now I don't have any fingers to pause you. So this is the B5 knot. It's not the most current knot. He's in B6 right now, which has a little bit more backbone. And so I'm really glad that I was able to get a B5. It does come choked up a little bit more to where it doesn't splay out as much. I'm really glad I moved it into another handle. Looks like maybe with a choke of about that much, puts it in almost the perfect place for me. So maybe I'll go out and get an O-ring, a little silicone or rubber O-ring, and put it on there. It'll look nicer than a kind of a test rubber band here. And then I'll get the feel that I prefer during the shave. I'm really, really happy with how it worked today. And then of course, as it gets older and starts to gradually splay out a little bit more with use, it'll get even better. So really happy with this. One interesting thing to do after a shave is to go back and smell your puck, because your nose has been inundated with this same scent for a while now. Also, if you've just put it on an aftershave, you've altered the way your nose perceives things as well. Going back to it, sometimes you can pick up totally different notes that you didn't know were there. And then the next time you use it, you might be more apt to be able to pick them out and enjoy them, because it's very different right now. Don't really know what I'm smelling. I'm not that good at naming it, but it's very light. All right, man, that's a good soap. Really glad that I was able to get that, and that'll be fun to use over the years. I've got so many soaps that it's gonna take years, but that's cool. These can be traded online and stuff, and as long as you take reasonable care of them, they're just not going to go bad in most cases, in almost all cases. And so that otherwise I would have few soaps if I knew that they were going to expire or go bad or something like that. The slight burning sensation is finally starting to get to a comfortable level, and so it's been several minutes about that. So this, for me and people with sensitive, I don't know that I have sensitive skin per se. Maybe it's more sensitive than average. Maybe it's just more sensitive to certain things right after a shave. But for people like me, they may want to stay away from this particular aftershave just because of the menthol effect and the way it works on them. So this is pretty average. If you've sampled other balms, other splashes that have menthol in them, seems about pretty average. So you can know what to expect there. At the end of today's shave, we'll do a razor tour with the Mamba. I've kind of already given you some close-ups, but we'll just complete the job. So let's go ahead and take off the blade. Now this one, this one might treat a blade really well because it does keep it on a nice even arc, not really breaking it too much in terms of stress points and things like that. As always, be careful as you're taking blades off. And notice that here on the ends, this head is wide enough to cover and protect you from the kind of jaggedy end pieces there. Now, I like to be able to grab the end pieces. It lets me have more control of the blade. But if you care about this sort of thing, then there you go. And so we will pick the top cap up off of the blade. And then I'll go ahead and rinse it off. It looks like it has a little bit of soap residue. Gently put it over on my little towel. And then we have the end cap. All right, so let's take the tour now that I've kind of got all the pieces dried and cleaned up. So this is the halo handle in titanium. It is definitely used. You can see the between the grooves here, it's may need some polish or something like that. Maybe that's some soap scum or something, I don't know. But I like the width of this handle. Still allows it to be nimble and move around as you shave, but it just has some nice girth, and the weight is nice. I kind of thought titanium would be a little lighter, but it's substantial enough. So I'm happy about that. And so now we have the Mamba head. This is the common screw measurements that apply to, the Parkers and Mercurs and Maggard and Charcoal Goods and Wolfman and Timeless and all those guys, Icon, all the major Gillette, all the major safety razor manufacturers. Not compatible with Rockwell and Fatip. Sometimes you can get them to fit in, but too much stress and it'll strip out, so be aware. And then we'll take the top cap out. It's just got a great polish on it. The finish seems really nice. I mean, it could be finished better, but this is not one of those high-end stainless steel razors. This is full stainless steel, and so this is a razor that could last a lifetime or 3. Something to pass down to your kids, and feels like the finish on it is just very nice. And then this is a nicer piece. Just got a little more interest to it. So it looks like RazoRock is a Canadian company. And then it's even got a serial number, or maybe that's the model number, I'm not quite sure. Mamba says there, just to remind me. The Wolfman Gorilla uses this same format of the smaller, shallow posts. And sometimes that can make it a little hard to balance, to leave the blade on there while you're putting the end cap on. Sometimes the blade can come off a little bit. I didn't have that problem today. I don't usually have that problem with my Wolfman Gorilla, but that is something to be aware of. But I think it's just a skill. You just do it and you get better at it. And it's just, so for me, it's not a problem if other things about the razor appeal to you. But I think it's just nice, smooth, good finish. I think it's a quality piece. And so, well, I'm going to highly recommend the Mamba for people who like more mild razors. And so that is excellent. I managed to get a good deal on this. Really happy about that. Really like this piece. I think it's attractive and very functional. So it was smooth and comfortable, while also cutting as well as other razors of varying aggressions for me and my skin. Now for you it may be different. For me, that's just the way it is. So that's the way I tell it. There's some times when I'm trying to get the closest shave I can, and it could be with practice that the Mamba could take me there and be that kind of razor for me. But for the most part, I am very happy with the results I got today. I don't usually work in an environment where somebody's right up in my face, scrutinizing my countenance here. And so I think the Mamba would, even now, if I didn't make any adjustments, if I didn't get any better with keeping that angle, finding the right, stretching and techniques to be able to use the Mamba to get this area, even if it stayed exactly the way it is, I could easily find myself happy if this was the only razor I had for the rest of my life, just because of the sheer amount of comfortable, smooth shaves that I would be getting. Very happy with that. All right, I think we're good. I think I've covered everything. Love the Reserve, and so it did not fail. I have tried Spice, and I have tried Waves. Didn't like quite the scent of the Waves, a little too girly for me, but it performed, as always, great with the Reserve. So I'm a big Reserve fanboy. It just, the first time I used it, it just felt like silk. It was tremendous. And my in-between shave rinses, in between pass rinses here, it was just slick. It was a very enjoyable part of the shave to rinse off that from my face. So there we go. And I'm done cleaning up, and it's been several minutes, and I'm finally starting to not feel that kind of burning sensation. Several minutes ago, it switched from being irritating to non-irritating, and now I'm finally starting to lose that feeling. So that's just not for me. Just reporting it. All right. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I hope there was something here that helped you out.